A very good morning to you. This is Off the Shelf. My name is David Batsoffen, and I'm joined once again, it has been a long time, by Jonathan Scott, who has now produced this essential, and hadn't even seen the word essential when I said it,
Mm.
essential guide to safari etiquette. Jonathan, good morning. Welcome to you.
Well, David, how nice basically to see you and know you're still there. And also, just, I love what you do, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to discuss and voice to other interested people some of these very important issues which have now hit the headlines.
They have indeed, and in quite a large way, Jonathan. And I want to piggyback this on the back of the sort of pivot to more conservation tourism and people becoming aware that it's not just chasing around in a vehicle trying to find the big five, tick them off, and then go home. There's much more to it. They've become immersive and essential parts of a safari. However, your book is about safari etiquette because sometimes, just sometimes, and I've been in a situation like this with gypsies filled with men with 400 f2.8s who have no idea what they're doing.
That's a very interesting point, the 400 f2.8s, because one of the things which I think has brought the issue of this sort of prevalence of a more aggressive form of tourism, I think, is two things. One, more people than ever traveling after COVID, everybody
Yeah.
wanting to get out traveling again. So numbers, which are always potentially problematic, of people wanting to see these spectacular sights. And secondly, forget the 400 2.8s and wanting to get close with a telephoto. We now live in the era of the selfie epidemic and
Yep.
social media with so many people now. I mean, it's been sort of noted that it seems to be an element of human nature that we want to get closer for a
Mm.
better look. And of course, now with everybody being a photographer with their iPhone, forget the professionals or the amateurs with big lenses, everybody wants to show they were there. And to
Yep.
me, that is partly destroying. And you could say, well, you're a purist or you've lived there and you've got the luxury of looking, being there for a long period of
Mm.
time. To me, spoils the sense of reconnecting to nature, being present to the moment,
Yep.
and putting down your camera, whatever kind it is, for a moment, and just soaking up the privilege of being able to see scenes like this.
True enough, because all of us, if it was a film age, you're a little more cautious with snapping off because your rolls were only 36 images. Now with digital, you can take 2,000 pictures. You come home, you'll discard 1,999 of them, keep one,
Yeah.
and then you go, but I didn't actually witness what I was seeing. I was seeing it through a lens. I wasn't enjoying it.
No, that's so true because whatever way you look at it, when you look through binoculars or a camera, you are narrowing down
Hmm.
your point of view. And then, unfortunately, what it becomes, and in this instance, say in India, tiger watching, it's a great pity if it just becomes about the tiger.
Yeah.
And it's, because we're always saying to people, when you come to the Mara, as much as Big Cat Diary and, television series we have done have prompted people to want to focus on the big things, actually, we have to keep reminding people, if you're going to have a safari, just breathe a little bit. Don't chase around like a headless chicken and soak up the fact that there's, what, 500 species of birds. There's all kinds of other life. And
Hmm.
that's where good guiding comes in, because a
Yeah.
good guide is going to actually try to make the safari an immersive experience.
Correct.
And if you're going to watch these big cats, and I think this is where safari etiquette came in, which is really just common sense. But one, it raises to us the issue, which is so many visitors actually, particularly in today's world, there is so much an element of, well, we saw it on the movies or we saw it on
Hmm.
television, or there's almost like we have to remind them this is not a circus, it's not
Yeah.
a safari park, this is not a television program, this is real life. And for these animals, it is life and death at times. So you've got to
Correct.
be very careful how, you get a tiger like this just lying down resting. Now, somebody could say, oh, it's just resting. Well, maybe not. Maybe actually it's decided too many people, too many cars. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be here. And so we have to be very careful. And what we've done, so this is, and of course, as you know, my wife, Angie, Angela is
Mm.
also a wildlife photographer, and the two of us put together this ebook, but only with the help of our son David and his wife Tori, who are the sort of younger version of the big cat people. But the fact is that in terms of trying to put this together, we just want to say to people, what we've done is there are rules and regulations. As a lot of people would say, is actually, you can complain, well, how is this possible? Well, there are rules and regulations. What safari etiquette tries to do is to not wag a sort of dictatorial finger, but say, you know why the rule is that?
Yeah.
Because this the impact that you may be having, which to the average visitor, I hate to say ignorant, but a lot of visitors are not terribly aware of the impact. And that's why one of the key things in safari etiquette is to put the responsibility on the camp and lodge to brief the visitors before they even set
Yeah.
foot on the first game drive.
That first game drive, and when the guide normally says, "Hello, does anybody have an
Yes,
illness? Does anybody want to see something special?"
of
They
course.
sh That's all well and good and understandable, specifically if they haven't been on safari before. But as you
Yeah.
say, common sense, but some people who are common don't
Yes.
have much sense. And this is the
No, and
problem.
also,
They want to be up in the face of the animal. They want to defy the guide. They want to talk loudly. They want to be an irritant rather than an immersive. And everybody on the vehicle suffers, perhaps because of one or two people.
absolutely. And David, a lot of it, as I say, is driven by this need to get close
Mm.
to literally, I loved it. There was a New York Times article where it said, you're pointing the camera the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because of course, if you've got your back to the wildebeest migration to show mum and dad that, look at me, here I am, wave your hand.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, when those people leave, I bet you, if you said to them a few days later, where did you stay? Which camp were you staying at? And the name of the place that were and they say, oh, I think it was Mara something, or well, something camp. People are not paying attention. Now,
But
one of the things that we've, look, Angie and I both came from initially, I was a safari guide. That's
yep.
how I got my first experience. So I know exactly the pressure that the guides are under, and it is enormous.
Mm.
So the pressure on the guide, and this is one of the biggest problems of all, is that quite if there's one person goes off the road or one person who's driven up to where the cheetah mum has her cubs in the bush, you bet that your life that anybody else they're driving along, the visitors, if the driver says, oh, the visitors will say, what are they looking at? And he'll
Yeah.
say, I think there's a cheetah there with cubs. And they'll say, oh, come on, can't we go closer?
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine how difficult that is to say to them, well, actually, what those people are doing is wrong. No, you can't.
Mm.
Now, that's not always going to be very persuasive, but it takes me back to the guiding, the briefing by your guide. And what's so important is a lot of the guides will feel, and this is in no way being sort of derogatory, but a lot of the guides will be thinking of their tourists and their visitors as sort of they've got to treat them with kid gloves because
Yeah.
after all they're bringing them business, so they're very reluctant to engage in them in a way of saying no, you can't do that. So
Mm.
that's why the golden rule is, if you sit the guests down before they go out and you say to them, look, when you see your first lion, or maybe we find a leopard, just a word of warning, please keep your voice down. Don't sit up on the roof of the car. Don't give everybody a running commentary of what it's very evident that everybody can see anyway, you know? And just, there's a few things we want to do. So now guess what? You drive out, you see lions with cubs. The first person who either sits up on the back of the car or shouts or screams or
Mm.
makes a big racket, The guide now can turn round and say, guys, ladies, remember what we said in camp?
Mm.
Now, immediately the guests will say, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And they'll get off the roof, they'll sit down. But if you haven't told them and you say, excuse me, please don't sit up there,
They'll go,
they could
why?
think you're being rude. They'll
Yeah.
think, yeah, what's this about? I paid this. I paid a lot of money to be here. And that's the other thing that we've got to get over. Doesn't matter how much you paid, it's no excuse to think you're privileged to
Yep.
break the conventions which are common sense and which are in the interest of the wildlife.
Yeah. When I go out on trail walks, and I'm not ARH compliant, so I don't carry a weapon. And
Sure.
guests will say to me, why are the guides and the backup guide carrying weapons? Or is that to shoot the animals? And I go, no, it's to shoot the guests. The animals can sort themselves out. It's you guys that want to run for the hills.
I know, but having said that, David, it's always depressing that every year there will be some. Basically, I always say to people, because everybody wants to know if you've lived in Africa, oh, what was the most dangerous moment?
Yep.
Which is the most dangerous animal? And I'll always say, look, the animals just want to be left alone. 99% of incidents where people are injured is because you broke the convention, you tried to get too close, there was an elephant with a baby, you acted in a way which the animal was surprised by. Because given normal circumstances, with the Maasai, for instance, who are out around the Mara
Mm.
every day of their life, the animals see them coming and they move away, whether it's
Yeah.
a buffalo, an elephant, the big dangerous animals that got their reputation from being shot at by trophy hunters. No wonder they were pissed off. You know. Now, this is an interesting picture
Yeah.
because one of the issues, David, with the Masai Mara National Reserve is it's very contentious in a way because before it became a reserve, like in the 60s or even back in the 40s, it started to get some protection. And at a point at which the local community who had roamed these areas, except when there was tsetse fly in the thicker bush, then they avoided them for sleeping sickness for their cattle. But in general, the Maasai view what is now a national reserve as not only their land, which it is held in trust, it's there, held in trust by the government
You're right.
for people. But the fact is, they think of it. Look, imagine this between where outside the reserve, around the boundary, there's no fence.
Mm.
So the Maasai who now can no longer bring their cattle and livestock into the reserve legally, they have private land which they own, which has been subdivided, some of which they have formed partnerships with tour operators to create the wildlife conservancies. Those people, the Maasai themselves, they will say to you, well, look, it's all very well and good, but you're going to tell us not to bring our cows into the reserve when we're short of grass. And yet the wildebeest every year come flying into our area, come driving in, like an army of ants, and they eat up all the grass which we need for our cattle.
Yeah.
Why can't it be a quid pro quo? Now, the answer to that is, well, if you look at tourism, wildlife-based tourism, and it works in the best way, and actually it delivers what it promises, well, the local community, from not being able to bring their livestock and live in the reserve, would get 20% of the revenue fed back into their local community and help raise living standards, medical centers, schools. So it's like those lions that came and killed my cow, okay, I'd like to go and spear them. But wait a minute, if I do that, well, then the tourists won't come.
Mm.
That doesn't work if the money collected through the reserve, through entrance fees and balloon fees and bed nights if some of that, a sizable amount, what is promised, doesn't go back to the local community, well, you're not going to be very happy.
No.
And this picture shows, unfortunately, a very real reality for the Mara, the National Reserve, which is that at night, large numbers of cattle, literally tens of thousands, some people would say 100,000, would be coming into the reserve at night when the guests were back at their camps.
Uh,
So it
is
was
that
a
a
sort of,
result
well,
of this then?
and look what it does.
Yeah.
That is tracks leading what you're looking at are tracks on one of those privately owned areas owned by the Maasai after subdivision,
Mhm.
bordering the reserve. And these are the tracks. And where are they leading? Right deep into the reserve.
Yeah.
It can be seen from space. Satellite images show these unbelievable trails of cattle coming into the reserve. So, of course, there's less grass.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why the migration now, the great migration from Serengeti, yes, what you're seeing here, when that comes up into the Mara, there's less grass for them because they're competing with all the cattle. So now they're spending less time than they used to in the Mara in the dry season where they
Mhm.
could always be grazing. And there are less of them coming up. There's not a drop in the population in total numbers, but the movements and the pattern of behavior has changed, partly due to less grass,
Yeah.
partly also due to disturbance. Now, I mean, just look, some people actually witnessing the spectacle, some people waving to their
Well,
friends back
well, you see,
home.
this is what you were talking about earlier, Jonathan. The two guys in
Totally.
the front, the guy in the red shirt and the guy in the blue
Yes.
jacket,
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
not seeing what's going on. They just,
No,
as you say, they're waving at their friends. If they turned
exactly.
around and took a picture, they could
Yeah.
send that picture going, this is where I am. You don't need to see me here. You know I'm here.
And you know, sadly, David, what this also illustrates is one of the safari etiquette principles, which is the rules say, and this is what caused such a lot of disturbance just recently on the Serengeti
Mm,
side of the Mara River, when people were filmed crouched down by their cars along the riverbank,
mm.
wildebeest going, pandemonium amongst the herds. And you're not meant to be out of your car at a river crossing.
But you know what's
Why?
going to happen, Jonathan?
Yeah,
Somebody's
tell me.
going to get killed or
Yeah,
badly injured, and then
yeah.
and then the powers that be are going to go, ooh, ah, and it'll be too late. And they won't go, well, they were out of their vehicle, they shouldn't have been. It's then it then becomes almost, oh, well, let's slaughter all the wildebeest so that this will never happen again.
And you know, David, one of the things to actually tell you about this instance, we were filming Big Cat Tales when I took this picture of the visitors.
Mm.
And actually, those wildebeest originally were crossing the river further towards the left-hand side of the picture. But
Right.
when everybody got out of the cars, they deviated and had to cross and emerge on the bank at a much more difficult place. And what's more, not only could the people be injured, because lions and leopards wait in hiding to
Mm.
ambush the herds. But the other thing is this: when the wildebeest see those people moving around on the bank, they panic, and sometimes a leg is broken, a neck is broken. Actually, some of these animals, when I say it's life and death for the animals,
It
not just
is.
entertainment, it really is. Some of
Yeah.
these animals will suffer the consequences of pure stupidity,
Yeah.
ignorance, you can call it if you want, bad training on the part of the guides, too much emphasis on, well, if I tell the people to get back in the car, because you imagine the driver who has these people on safari, who has shown them this epic event, they are going to be very happy and quick to put their hand in their pocket to
Correct.
actually give the guide a great gratuity and sometimes also to buy themselves out of trouble if rangers come along.
Yeah.
Now, this is another classic. So in safari etiquette, we've been watching lions and big cats in the Mara since 1977. And I've been a guide and know exactly what it takes and what are the no's and what are the clients? How much impact are you going to get from the clients? How do you manage the clients? But this was the incident that actually made us, Angie and myself, say, and we witnessed this particular one when there were five cheetahs. We called them Tana Bora, the sort of magnificent five. It was
Mm.
like Clint Eastwood and Yul Brynner and the rest of them. And that was the Magnificent Seven, I
Seven.
think. But anyway, this was literally 50 cars. Two of the five cheetahs, well, no, one of the five cheetahs, who was the speed king, raced ahead after a calf, and they were very adept and practiced at catching wildebeest, big and small. But in the dry season, the calves, it's nailed a calf, which you can just see. It would be just to the top and left a little bit. Maybe you can see it in the middle of the picture,
Yeah.
nearer to the cars in the background. Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
So that one cheetah's just clobbered the wildebeest. Now, the other four of the group, they left because they came looking, they were calling for
Mm.
the one that killed the calf. It was strangling it. And when they couldn't see because of the crowd of cars encircling the prey, they left. And then this one was left trying for a day to reconnect with the others. Now, it's much more vulnerable to
Ridiculous. Yeah, for
lions and
sure.
hyenas when it doesn't have its chums. But the other thing that this illustrated was don't encircle the animals. And what then happened was two of the five by 2022, was it two? Yeah, October 22, there were only two of those five cheetah males still, but they were still hunting wildebeest. They
Yeah.
chased a calf, grabbed it, and the cars just mobbed it. And the New York Times, January the 4th, 2023,
Mm.
picked up on that incident because rather like the one we've just been talking about that's caused a furor now of the wildebeest and the crossing and
Yeah.
the South African guide and the people out of their car, that video went viral. Now, this video of those two and then being surrounded by the cars went viral. And the
Yeah.
New York Times led with the cheetahs made a kill and the cars closed in. Now, this gives you, well, it's not cheetahs. You can see it's a
No,
mother
these are,
leopard with a
yeah,
large, yeah, with a large subadult cub, but it's having to weave through
through
the
the
vehicles.
vehicles. It's
And
ridiculous.
think of the magic, David, think of the magic when you get a chance to see a leopard. It's
Yeah.
like gold. This leopard has come out to cross an open area surrounded by cars. I mean, it's just wrong.
There's no way, Jonathan, there is no way to justify this. Because
No,
if you're a photographer, you've got
yeah,
vehicles in the background. Either you're going to spend hours on Photoshop or you
I
can't
know,
use the image anyway. So what's the point? Other than making
exactly.
these animals really, really aggressive and angry. And also,
And you
they
know,
lose out on meals because, as you said, with the cheetahs, they had to leave. They leave one behind.
yes,
That
yeah,
one may eat, but it also wants
yeah.
to get out of being encircled by things that it doesn't quite understand.
And of course, and being then on its own, as being used to then feeding with four, 5 round a kill can keep hyenas away.
Yep.
That cheetah left that carcass, had barely even eaten and took
Yeah.
off. And now
People,
with these leopards,
yeah.
you see, you mentioned about photography. Absolutely. As a photographer, your worst moment is when there is an amazing situation going on. You've got a clear view, and a car drives right opposite you, blocks your path. And you can wave and say, "What are you doing?" and get mad, all the rest of it. And the guide will just look at you, put his hands out like this as if to say, "What are you making a fuss about? Just look." And of course, then what it means is that, of course, it shouldn't. And this is one of our biggest points. And it's becoming more and more apparent. It shouldn't be just about getting the shot. Because if you are in any way putting the animal at risk, you shouldn't be doing it. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
That's
This
why I'm
shouldn't be
hoping this
done.
photographer didn't get his camera back.
I mean, seriously. I mean, it's just, it's so silly. And of course, the other thing that worries me, Angie was talking about this morning, and in fact, a friend of ours, Adam Bannister, wrote a very good piece in a travel journal, and he picked up on an element of the safari etiquette thing that we've talked about in terms of guiding practices. But what he picked up on was that some of these top guides who have a huge following on Instagram or on Facebook, they literally have now started to make themselves the star within the picture.
Yep.
So they're getting out of the car, inviting their guests to get out of the car, showing it on social media. Look at this, it's amazing. We've got lions coming towards us. We've got an elephant, the big me, you, I am,
Mm.
and tick, because the thing that social media thrives on is excitement, drama, and sort of craziness. And
Right.
so so Adam very rightly said some of the people who should be providing us with the best example, some of the leading photographers now have fallen into the trap of thinking that it's about them as opposed to, and you could say, well, it is there, look at me, I'm doing this. Well, as far as And this was our point again with the safari etiquette. There are some things that people might be able to do in a private setting, in a private reserve, but you would not want to show the whole world what you're
Correct.
doing because it's a bad example.
Mm.
And so this was really what we said with safari etiquette is the photographers actually now they should really be saying
No.
nothing's more
Yeah.
important than the subject.
Jonathan, we're running time the clock down, so to speak. It
God, has it
always
gone so
happens
far?
when I chat with you. How do
Yeah.
people find the book? You've said it's an ebook, so it's only available online?
Yes, but the fact is, what we're doing is we're going to then do a sort of 3, 4 page for anybody, which will be able to be downloaded free, which
Mm.
is going to be called Safari Etiquette, the Basics.
Ah, okay.
Because I mean, the book is $12. It's not a lot, but the fact is that helps us fund. It's promoted or created by the Sacred Nature Initiative, which of course we founded in 2021 and we've spoken about with our Sacred Nature books.
Yes.
And so it's an initiative of the Sacred Nature Initiative with the Narok County government. And so
Okay.
we've created this little book, which we now will actually get the Kenya Association of Tour Operators, of many of the big NGO entities around tourism to actually say, to endorse it.
Yep.
And then, as I say, Safari Basics available for everybody. If people go onto our website, to our shop, they can see it. I can send you a link to it. But no, Safari Etiquette.
So what is the link, Jonathan, for people watching this now?
Okay. Let me,
Is it
let me, okay, you're going to challenge me. Let me see if I can do this. I'm sure I can because I'm going to try
bigcatdiaries.co.za?
and be clever. I'm going to put you down a minute. Have I sent you away
No,
for
you know
good? No.
what, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Yes.
it. I'll find it and I'll
Okay.
put it in the blurb that goes with this video so
Okay.
people can
Brilliant.
read it there. Um,
Fantastic.
you were talking about sacred nature. When is
Yes.
the third book coming out? I'm waiting with bated breath.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see how do I make you big again?
Oh,
Or
I
doesn't
don't.
it matter?
Doesn't matter. We're
Okay,
even at
fine.
the
Yeah,
moment.
okay. So now, so David, let me tell you. So Sacred Nature Initiative, first one, Life's Eternal Dance. Second one, reconnecting people
Mm,
to our planet. Because our premise is, and it goes with this whole thing of safari etiquette, is we want to try and, 60%, 50% of people now live in urban settings. A lot of them think nature's just an option, not a, it's
yes.
a choice. Well,
Yeah.
actually, you can't live without it.
No,
And so
trees in
we
your
want
garden or on the
you've
street.
got it. You've got
Yeah.
it. And as Angie says, everybody's got a sacred nature. My mum, it could have been a geranium in a potted
Mm,
plant, something that you look at and which makes you feel better because we know we come from nature. And
yeah.
so nature is embedded in us. We have to reconnect. And this, it's interesting just thinking about this aggressive tourism that the New York Times article picks up on. It is actually a worldwide epidemic because as more and more people travel, because it's the world's biggest industry, and every day I pick up the newspaper and I read about some country or other which is saying this is going to help us get more tourists,
Mm,
more visitors. Well, great, but actually, as we know, people in numbers can be a plague. Look at Florence, look at Rome, look at sort of the Grand Canyon. When there's too many people, it gets pretty ugly and
it,
it's aggressive and it's pushy and it's more akin to paparazzi, whether you've got a camera in your hands or not, because it's let me have a look. I need to get close. That's the big one.
yeah.
I need to get closer. No, you don't.
Is that going to be the title of the third book in the trilogy?
No, I'll tell you what the title of the third one. So Sacred Nature 3,
Yeah.
Life's Incredible Journey.
And when can we expect that?
I think it'll be with Heinrich, so HPH Publishing in South Africa, and probably I might as well give a date because then I'm much better with the deadline. So let's say sometime in 2027. That's not
Okay.
next year, is it?
No, you've got a year and a bit. Jonathan,
Yeah.
as always, the time zips by when I chat with you.
Fantastic.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank you
much
so
for
much.
joining us. I hope your book triggers something in both the Safari Guide and in the Safari Tourist to just say, no, we don't need to get that close. We can see it from here and we can leave the animal be. Please
We got
say
to be more respectful. Yeah, we got to be
respectful
more.
and responsible. Please
Yeah,
say
it's
hello
not.
to Angie for me.
I will.
One day I'll get to talk with her again, but we're
Yeah,
not going to
one day
get
you'll
on.
come here. One day you'll come here and we'll take you out.
It might be sooner than you think.
Okay,
Jonathan,
fantastic.
thank you very much for joining me on Off the Shelf. You take care. All the very best. And for you, dear viewer, until the next time, cheers for now.